Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again, and the next build I tried out in the Delirium League was one I've played before, but it wasn't particularly terrific, and it's been quite a challenge trying to figure this one out once again. It is Dark Pact with Summon Skeletons and using Poet's Pen and Spellslinger. Dark Pact by itself traditionally is just cast on yourself and then it's just a big AoE skill. Whereas if you have skeletons out, it will use the skeleton's health for damage and then also chain between the skellies. So the idea is that you are constantly summoning lots of skellies, you stack minion life, and then you chain the Dark Pact between them. And it's kind of a difficult one to figure out because you do have to scale a lot of minion life, you got to scale a lot of crit and crit multi, you got to get your own life, and then you're factoring in a lot of new cluster jewels and passive tree shenanigans, and it's been quite a challenge. I have played it, like I said, once before as an occultist a few years back, and it was kind of mediocre in the end game, and there's quite high of a chance that this does the exact same thing. So far, up until about level 87, up till tier 8, tier 9, tier 10, something like that, it hasn't been too bad, but it has been a big challenge trying to figure out the gear and the passive tree, especially with the new cluster jewels, because you want everything. You want all of the minion life, you want the chaos damage, the crits, the crit multi, and it's just so damn passive starved. So bear with me as I still try and figure it out over the next day or two, but so far it's come together to be a fairly respectable build. Probably not something I would think you should be copying just yet, or even really considering, because it's kind of wonky. As far as what it takes to get it doing the right things. Once you're kind of attacking, it's fine. Once you've got your chains happening and the damage is rolling, it's not too bad. But I haven't really tested it against too much content yet, still just been leveling up. And then ultimately, you probably got much better options for your Poet's Pen and your Spellslinger, like Volatile Dead, for example. But that does seem to be more of a theme for me these days, where I'll play a couple of strong builds and then a bunch that you just can because you can, or at least to see if you can. Just for the sake of it, rather than something you should do. So copying builds from me doesn't seem to be too reliable at the moment, I wouldn't think, since there's a lot of experimenting going on. But don't worry, we'll have plenty more like hollow palm and overpowered shit in the future. But this one, you can see it's actually not that terrible of a tanky build, because you do get a lot of life regen, you get some damage reduction as a Necromancer, thanks to the nodes I've been taking. I'll show you those in a second. So it's kind of technically a summoner. There's still plenty of good stuff going on in the build, but trying to fit everything in has been kind of difficult. And you can see that there are the occasional frame drops and all that, but it's not really on my end at all. It's just like when Twitch is going through, or streaming and coding at the same time, seems to be showing off a few frame drops, but it's not a very frame intensive build at all. So if you're worried about that, I wouldn't be. Dark Pact does seem to just for some reason have some slight issues with the recording and streaming of it. But you can see that there are these big chains from your Dark Pact, and that's why we've gone with a Gloomfang, because to start with, Dark Pact has 2 chains, so every single time you cast it out, it will chain between skeletons 2 times. With Gloomfang, it then chains an additional time, and hopefully you can kind of see that there's a lot of these chains bouncing around through your skeletons, and the skellies themselves have feeding frenzy so that they can appropriately run around to your targets and also dash to the targets, thus causing the chains to be more effective. But so far, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. It's been fine so far up to this point, but I'm not sure how it's going to travel in the next few levels, which is why I'm a little bit cautious about saying that, you know, good build, worth playing, etc. So we'll see how it goes in the next few days, but for now, I do want to show you how I've built it. So here is our character, level 87, 2 Skellies, 1 Pact, and I just did a bit of a reshuffle of the passive tree to gain 4 passives, so ignore those. But essentially what we're looking at is a passive tree that is still sort of similar to a lot of other spell crit passive trees, but it goes heavily into minion life as well. And that is currently largely coming from cluster jewels, because the cluster jewels do have some very juicy minion life compared to the regular minion life nodes throughout the tree. So you got just at best bullshit like this that you used to have to travel to. In my old occultist build, I managed to hit, I think, 12,000 Skele life, and at this point I am comfortably at 25,000, and I can still shoot up over 30,000 in the next few levels and little upgrades. So the skeleton life is a lot higher than it used to be, and there's more versatility of what you can do with your tree. But real quick, just to show you, the interactions are from Poet's Pen and Spellslinger. So we currently have one Dark Pact here and one Dark Pact here, and then Skele's as well attached to a Spellslinger in the helm. So every single time we shoot with Barrage, or even let's just shoot with default attack, you can see that we're shooting out a Dark Pact and 4 Skeles, and every single time we complete our attack, we're also shooting out with Poet's Pen. So there should be 2 Dark Pacts and then some Skeles, and you can see the chains bouncing between them. So that's the idea behind the build. Barrage procs a lot quicker, so that's why we're using Barrage. And if you ever want to sort of visualize the test for this sort of thing, you can have a look at your reserved Spellslingers and also your Dark Pact from Poet's Pen itself. So that's all of the things, and then you can see the little cooldowns. That's actually the wrong thing. That and that. Okay. Yep. So that's all of them. You can see the cooldowns ticking over. The one in the middle is Poet's Pen because that's got a much lower internal cooldown, and then the others are basically going as soon as they can. And I tested it a lot with Frenzy and Frenzy Barrage and all that, and I think Barrage by itself with faster attacks seems to be the fastest way to proc these things, so that's why we're currently using Barrage, and it is attached to faster attacks, power charge on crit, and currently just a Stone Golem, but we want life gain on hit there, so that you get a little bit of extra sustain. So we do have 2 separate Dark Pacts, and they are attached to Void Manipulation and Conk Effect, and then Dark Pact, Spellslinger, Control Destruction, Energy Leech, and Void Manipulation once again. Not final links, I'm still going to be playing around with them, but you can see Dark Pact has either a bunch of flat chaos damage, and it does more damage if it's using your life, or it sacrifices 6% of the Skele's life total to deal that much chaos damage as well. Given that we've got this much Skele life, it's adding an additional like 1,500 or so additional chaos damage to each Dark Pact, and that's pretty damn chunky, and we can still go a bit higher. But the challenge is that it's a 5 crit spell, so we're trying to scale the crit while the crit multi, while the life on our character, while the skeleton life on the tree as well, with all of these cluster jewels is pretty damn difficult. So the cluster jewels I've chosen here are 2 jewel sockets, and then Unspeakable Gifts and Touch of Cruelty. Unspeakable Gifts is just very similar to the occultist node, and then Touch of Cruelty just gives you increased chaos damage to the enemies. You then have just whatever ones here for minion sort of medium clusters. It doesn't really matter if it's 4, 5, 6 because we actually want these nodes, so we've gone with Buff Effect and some Chaos Res, and then Life from Death, which is hardly anything, but you do get some life regen from these. Other than that, you can see with the Buff Effect, our minion life is 15% per node. That's why I've gone ahead and taken just about every single one and just gone for an absolute 6 node over here with a Buff Effect as well. And then finally, the build really needs life, so I've gone some 3 prop small clusters for life and gone with Fettle on them. So you can see Fettle is the very big life node. I rolled these myself with Alt Regaling. This one ended up being real good. This one's just a basic bitch Fettle one, so just a bunch of life. And then I'm going to do something similar to this cluster here, but I've only just taken the cluster, so it's currently just using a placeholder with another occultist thing, because these chances do stack, so now we've got 20% chance to explode, and that's going to help our clear quite a bit. So I'm going for 2 of these Unspeakable Gifts as far as I can tell, and then we'll grab something else over here and then branch out once again. Other than that, the passive tree is just pretty much a regular passive tree, bit of life, bit of area, bit of crit, and also Righteous Army and Spiritual Aid for more minion life and damage towards ourselves. You're trying to get minion life across the board as well. You can get some on a belt thanks to Essences of Fear, and we just rolled those with Catalyst life fossils. Oh, sorry, life catalysts, no fossils, and then life catalysts on Coral Ring, life catalysts on another Coral Ring. Tried to get some life gain for spells with your shaped ring, because that'll counteract the negative effect of Gloomfang, since it does lose some life every time you hit by enemy spells, but it also gives you +1 chain, which is pretty damn valuable, and some Chaos Leech. So overall, we've got a lot of life regen and life sustenance. We just need to up our life total to something like 5,200, but you can see through the use of Necro, we do have +2, but also Bone Barrier, which is pretty handy, and we do always have these minions up, so we do have the damage reduction there as well. And then I just grabbed this because fuck it, what else? Not sure if I can do anything else, but the order here was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we do have Bone Barrier going whenever we need it for a bit of extra damage reduction. And that's pretty much all I need to say on the character. Actually, we did go a +3 and minion life helm here. So use bound fossils to try and roll this one on an eye level 86 elder helm. The idea is to make it a 5 link and then a +3 Skele. So it's a level 28 summon Skeles because it's a level 21 gem. We've then got +2 on the Necro Ascendancy, +3 from the Helm, +2 from Empower, that you can get another one from Empower, and then we're using Spellslinger and Feeding Frenzy as well, and it is supported by Minion Life. So that's about all I can think of to say about the character for now. It's still a bit of a work in progress, so I'll have another little bit of a report in a few days to let you know if it was a complete failure or if it kind of worked out. And if you want the little micro that I've got put together here, basically just a bunch of red stuff, so Demon Parasite, Gore Skull, Automaton stuff, the current challenge horns, glowing red eyes, and then the new wings that came out, because I figured they'd go pretty nice with this sort of setup. So for now, thank you very much for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and see you next time.